We've just completed the landmark Australia tutorial on Chardonnay with Steve Webber from De Bordeley Wines, and I guess in terms of managing expectation, presenting to a room full of international experts on Australian Chardonnay, not an easy thing. So what were the points that you felt you were really trying to make?
Oh, that Australia's doing some interesting and sort of different style Chardonnays, that we are sort of leaning up a little bit. You know, that it's difficult sort of talking to the international media because they have an expectation of what Australian Chardonnay should taste like, and that's normally sort of that it's a little bit fuller and richer and oakier and that sort of stuff. And there's certainly a general trend in Australia, you know, that we to produce wines that are maybe more balanced and more sort of, you know, fruit driven and finer and those sorts of things, because people aren't drinking the other stuff.
Sure.
So we've got to make, you know, we've got to make some stuff that people want to drink in this country, and irrespective of what the international community think that Australia should be making.
I love your comment. You made a comment, not today but in the past, that you want your Chardonnay to taste of the dirt that it's grown in rather than its varietal character. I want to explain that a little bit.
Yeah, well, look, you know, varietal character is important, but it really needs to be in balance. You know, like, you know, wine shouldn't just be about the variety; it should be about the place, and it should be about the season. So, you know, one of the things I talked about today was, which, you know, I'm not sure if we got the message entirely across, but it was more about, you know, finding that balance between fruit intensity, but keeping it sort of, you know, controlled, but throwing in some, you know, sense of place and throwing in a sense of the season in which, you know, something grows, because they're two really important things.
So do you think we need to challenge the world view on what Australian Chardonnay is? Is it actually a different shape and size of wine style than the world's expecting?
Yeah, look, I think the world generally thinks that Australia is more about it's more about the sun and, you know, wines with sunshine and, you know, bigness and boldness and all of that sort of Australian image. You know, we need to get a bit of that sort of refined sort of Melbourne character into wine. You know, a little bit of sort of, you know, black clothing and sort of, you know, some after dark work and all of that
Dress
sort of
circle
stuff.
action.
Dress circle action.
Last point, and I think this is one of the more provocative things that you said today, and I think it's fascinating. You said, as a country, we need to learn to be more forgiving about the faults in our wine, and one day we'll see them as points of interest.
Yeah, well, look, you know, I just think that, you know, some of the imperfections in life are the things that we really enjoy about it. You know, it's a pretty girl with a little mole on her face, or it's, you know, there are some wines that I really do enjoy that are slightly imperfect, because they've just got this character about them that isn't, you know, airbrushed and isn't sort of perfect, and it really is those sort of very slight imperfections that make things beautiful.
Great, so there you are, changing the orthodoxy, celebrating interest rather than perfection in wine. Thanks, Steve Webber.